Are you scurry dogs? Are we ready for another video? Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, YouTubers from all around the world. What are we doing this week? Oh, putting on these profile boards. They got a nice little shape cut into them all along the deck lines. We got one more to do. Yeah, I think it's right there. I have to get my computer up and running. But I wanted to show you how I was doing these. See that one there? Second one. It's 1x4. Cut that profile. That means it's 1 inch or 1 millimeter deep and 4 millimeters wide. And these profile boards that the plans called for are 4 millimeters wide, 1.5 millimeters deep. So we're cutting as much as we can down in there without taking away thickness of the board. So let me park you in the tripod here so you can see how this works. So I'm making sure that I've got the right one, because you don't want to start off with the wrong one. See, I'm not going all the way to the very end of the board, because putting this much pressure on it, it's really hard to do the end of the board. So I'm just cutting that part off. But the first thing I want to do is sand up these edges a little bit. Yeah, we got rid of 2 roosters a week or so ago, and ended up that 3rd Cockamoran is a rooster too. So we found a home for him. We'll have to let the lady know if she wants to come get it, or we'll bring it over there. So now that's good enough to work with. And first thing we'll do is cut these ends off. Lightly take some off the back where that cut is and square up the end. Now we'll use this to measure and cut for that spot. First I want to look at my plans. I got to boot the laptop up. because if that is the spot, we're gonna have to make another one of these, because this one isn't long enough for both sides. But we do have both sides at the same state of completion. All the main rubbing stakes are done, and you can see here I was using rubber bands and stuff to push in on these ends to make sure they were pushing down good where they were getting glued on. A little bit of curve here in the front where front of the ship is, and we got that nice and snug. So get these last two pieces on, and we pull all the pins out and start sanding this baby up, getting ready for paint next week. Because I'm pretty sure after that last rubbing stake is done, or decoration trim, we'll go to that next step, which is sanding. So you can see I've been cutting wood and not wood on the ship. This week is a different project. I did get the last of the trim pieces done. We'll have that last one done here in a little bit, but I'm taking a break from this project today to finish the things I wanted to on the ship. But I took some landscape timbers, which are made to be outside on the ground, border your flower beds or whatever, and you can do other things with them. In fact, we built the chicken coop with them, the main beams in there and everything. So this is what I built this week with the landscape timbers. And that's obviously going to be a bunch of rotten wood in the bottom, and then fill it up with dirt. And then we're going to build another one to go over here. And I showed in the last video what my plans were for the greenhouse here. But other than these funky cuts in order to make this thing sturdy, there's like 10 4-inch screws in each corner to withstand against the weight of the dirt, and the way they're notched cut to help facilitate the assembly of the corner with some overlapping to screw into the other boards. So it's screwed in like 4 different directions on each corner with multiple screws to give it strength. But that'll be a big planter bed, and we're going to build a second one to match it. And of course it's getting close to Halloween and Thanksgiving, so I started getting down the decorations for the front yard. And so let me get this laptop up and going, and see where that spot, that piece goes on there. Get that glued on both sides. Once when I was in my early 20s, I built a house with a professional builder, carpenter. And it was just me and him. Built the whole house and concrete slab up. But doing trim work and stuff like that, after you get the siding and the sheetrock and all that stuff done, one of the tricks he taught me is when you make a nail hole in a board, or you ding the board up with your hammer because you missed the nail, if you take a little saliva out of your mouth and put on the ding or the hole, it will swell up the wood enough to, most cases, close the hole 75–80%. And that depends on what kind of wood it is too. This walnut, I think, for the shape boards there, is a little tougher than the other stuff. But you can see I had pins all along here in this other stuff, and I just pulled a bunch of them out, and then I'm putting a little dab of water on them, just as if it was spit from my mouth. And that moisture makes the wood swell up, and it closes up the holes. So that's a trick I learned. I got 2 busted boards. I got to put the glue on that. I wonder how those got broke. Maybe when I was drilling these holes, it was too much pressure on them. I got to pull them carefully and put those grates up there and glue that arm so I don't have a problem later on. So just wanted to mention that little trick. Water will swell the wood up, and you can close up your pinholes if you put a lot of pinholes in. So that last piece we just did, I thought it was going to be back here, but the plans show it up here. So I got that done on both sides, glued up, drying. And this board was sticking up a little bit on the end, so I pried it up a little more and put some glue under it, and then strapped it down with a rubber band. That's another trick, is using rubber bands and hair ties and stuff like that to help hold down the wood in different places you can't get a clamp. So I got this water treatment done on both sides. Let it set for a little while, and then we'll start sanding up this baby. We got to look at the plans real good, make sure that's what we want to do next, but I'm pretty sure it is. I've got all these rubbing stakes and decoration boards on. So next step. As you can see there, we got a few little spots that we've added some of the thin planking to repair where it tore off. We're sanding and getting these joints to smooth out on all this rubbing stakes and trim. Got our last one glued on. So I'm picking between, with the bottom of the hole is going to be white, but the plans show up here sort of a tan color like the wood is now, and I'm sort of picking between these. I don't know if that's going to work, and I'm going to use this to do some wood filler in the areas you see, like that area right there, little low spot, and down here around the keel, and little spots that will help fill in, make it smoother. Because I could sand and sand and sand, and then it tells us to use some kind of putty in the plans. So I was out at Home Depot getting stuff for next week's projects, not counting this one. And I said, oh, let's just get some. I've used this before on other things, and it mixes good, and once it's dry you can sand it, and it's easy to work with, and it's harder than sheetrock mud or other kinds of putty, which is what I want, something that's easy to work with, but it's really hard after it dries. I should be able to get that on there in a format that will cover up these low areas, and we can paint white and the tan. We'll look at the plans some more carefully, but all that rubbing stakes and trim boards are done this week, so a lot of sanding. I spent a good 3 hours yesterday just sanding and patching and lining up these things where the joints were with the sandpaper, and I still got a little more to do, but I want to get the bottom part painted first and puttied, and then we'll work on the upper half. There's some here to trim off where they're sticking out. I do that on purpose so it's easier to clean it up with the sand, you know, the roller on the Dremel. It's easier to clean it up with something like that than it is to try to cut it exactly to fit and then glue it on and pin it where it doesn't move. It's easier just to clean the ends up after you got it in place. So I'll make them a little long for that reason. So did good progress this week. I had another bin to build next week and a few other things to do. Well, hopefully I should be able to get some painting done on it. Thanks for watching.